Our reverse curls are a strength move for our biceps, forearms, wrist, and grip strength. These are going to be a lot tougher than a normal bicep curl or a hammer curl because it requires a lot more grip and wrist strength on this movement than it does for those other exercises. So you're going to want to be at a lighter weight to start with before progressing up on this exercise. Starting position for this one is going to be very similar to a normal bicep curl. We're going to grab those weights. We're going to stand in a nice relaxed position with those feet about hip to shoulder distance apart. Squeeze those shoulder blades back and then lock those upper arms in at our sides. The only difference is going to be our hand positioning here. We're going to rotate those hands to where they are facing behind us at the bottom, and then we're going to keep them facing in the same direction as we curl on up as high as we can go while keeping those elbows in at our sides and then controlling it back on down. So a lot of times people will think that they need to keep those palms completely flat against the floor. That's not going to be possible. You're not going to have a range of motion in the wrist to do that. They will be kind of angled a little bit. So you can see how my wrists are slightly angled here at the top. They're not perfectly straight. That is okay. Just focus on keeping them keeping those palms facing the floor as best as possible. Most common mistakes made on this exercise. Number one, not keeping those upper arms glued to our sides. This is a really common mistake even in normal bicep curls or hammer curls, but it's even worse in this one because it's going to feel awkward having those wrists in this position. So a lot of times people will come forward like this in order to compensate for having those weaker wrists or grip strength. Lock those elbows back. Make sure that you're forcing those forearms, those biceps, and those wrists to do that work here. Another most common mistake made is not keeping that good hand position. Instead, people will come out kind of like this, more into a hammer curl at the top. You want to fight as much as you can to keep those wrists in this position where those palms are facing the floor. Another big common mistake is letting the wrists go limp on this one. And this is really common if you have weak wrists or weak grip strength. And what that's going to look like, I'll give you a closer view here, is when you curl up, instead of having that wrist in line like it is right now, that wrist is going to curve down like this. So a lot of times I'll see people doing their curls like this, and that's not going to be strengthening up the wrist and that grip strength. You want to fight the urge to let them drop down like this, fight to keep them straight and in line. If you need to drop down in weight, do so, but keep those wrists in line with the rest of that arm so that you're working on building up that wrist strength as well throughout this movement. Go slow, go light, focus on the fundamentals of this movement. You should feel a good burn in those forearms. We are using our biceps, but typically the forearms and the wrists are going to give out well before our biceps are. So that's probably where you will feel it the most. Focus on that movement and keeping those fundamentals correct, and then you can always progress up in weight as you start to build up your wrist, grip strength, and forearm strength.